My name is Ila Monroe, 34, and I never thought my own family would be capable of such cruelty toward my son. It was supposed to be a simple Sunday dinner at my family townhouse until my sister Vanessa Callahan sprayed her expensive perfume directly into my 4-year-old son, Owen Monroe's eyes. While he screamed in pain, my Linda Callahan laughed, saying, "If he's blind now, maybe he won't see. He's a burden, too." Greg Callahan added, "Well, at least he smells better now." Before continuing, let me know where you're watching from and hit subscribe. Life has a funny way of teaching you who truly deserves a place in your world. Before I tell you about the day that changed everything, I should explain a bit about myself and my family. I work as a child development specialist at Maplewood Health Center, a job I love because it allows me to care for children and still have enough flexibility to be there for my son, Owen Monroe. He's 4 years old, bright-eyed, and curious about everything. Owen Monroe has what his family doctor calls sensory processing differences, as is extremely sensitive to certain sounds, textures, and especially strong smells. It's not severe enough for an autism diagnosis, but it does mean that everyday things other kids might not notice can be overwhelming for him. Loud restaurants, scratchy clothing tags, or strong perfumes can trigger meltdowns that leave him exhausted. My sister, Vanessa Callahan, is 2 years older than me at 36. She's always been the golden child in our family. Successful marketing executive, perfectly styled at all times, and living what our Linda Callahan calls the dream life in her downtown penthouse. Vanessa Callahan never wanted children, which is completely fine, but she's never hidden her disdain for my choice to become a Linda Callahan. Throwing away your potential, she called it when I told the family I was pregnant. Even now, she refers to Owen Monroe as the situation rather than by his name. Our parents, Richard and Linda Wilson, built their lives around appearances. As Ila Monroe sat on her parents' pristine leather couch, the hum of the central air blended with the faint scent of lemon polish. It felt suffocating, overwhelmingly perfect. Her son, Owen Monroe, sat quietly beside her, tapping a nervous rhythm against his jeans. Suddenly, her Greg Callahan's phone buzzed, slicing through the silence. He glanced at Owen, then turned the screen toward Layla. It was a text thread with James, her ex-husband, now inexplicably in daily contact with her father. Why this sudden change? The whisper of the wind outside hinted at deeper rifts, far beyond marriage, far beyond blood. My name is Ila Monroe, and I never thought my own family could show such cruelty to my son. Once, it was a simple Sunday dinner. That night, my sister Vanessa Callahan, always the golden child, sprayed her expensive perfume directly in Owen's eyes. As he screamed in pain, Mom laughed, saying, "If he's blind now, maybe he won't see. He's a burden, too." Greg Callahan chimed in with, "At least he smells better now." That moment shattered my belief in family. Life has a strange way of revealing who truly belongs in your life. Let me take you back a bit. I'm a 34-year-old child development specialist at Maplewood Health Center, and I love my job. It allows me to care for kids while being there for Owen. He's 4, bright-eyed and curious about the world. But Owen deals with sensory processing differences, making everyday sounds, textures, and strong smells overwhelming for him. Imagine trying to navigate a noisy restaurant or dealing with itchy clothing tags. It can trigger meltdowns that leave him completely drained. Vanessa Callahan, my older sister, has it all, or so people say. A successful marketing executive living in a luxurious downtown penthouse, she never wanted kids and has never hidden her disdain for my choice to become a Linda Callahan. To her, Owen Monroe is not a name, he's just the situation. Our parents, Richard and Linda Callahan, built their lives on appearances, so success and status always mattered more than love or understanding. Greg Callahan thrived in commercial real estate, and Mom, well, she was a former beauty queen, never getting over those pageant days. Their giant colonial home in the affluent part of town was always immaculate, almost ready for a photo shoot. I guess they valued prestige above all else, But my life took a different turn. I married James right after college, dreaming of a perfect family. When I got pregnant with Owen, he seemed excited. But when Owen turned 1, I found out James was cheating on me with a younger paralegal. The divorce was brutal. It left scars that still ache. He moved to Seattle, starting anew with someone else. I was stuck in a modest 2-bedroom apartment, rebuilding everything from scratch. My nursing career became my lifeline, providing stability for Owen and me. We may not live in luxury, but our home is full of love and laughter. Despite the tension between us, I kept bringing Owen to Sunday dinners, hoping they'd eventually see him for the amazing kid he is. I believed family was meant to accept one another. How misguided I was. Vanessa Callahan just returned from a lavish shopping trip in Paris, showering gifts on everyone but Owen. Mom showed off her hand-painted scarf, while Greg Callahan flaunted a rare bottle of cognac. And here I was, surrounded by the remnants of what I hoped had been a loving family. But the truth was buried beneath layers of pretense. What does it mean to belong when you're met with rejection? Can love flourish in such harsh conditions? As I sat there, the air heavy with unspoken words, I understood that sometimes family can be the most demanding teacher of all. Ila Monroe had always tried to fit into the family mold. She'd hoped that maybe one day they'd see Owen Monroe, her son, for who he really was, a bright, sensitive kid just trying to find his place. But each Sunday dinner chipped away at that hope, like a steady erosion of love. On that day, nothing seemed off at first. The table gleamed with fine china, the air thick with the scent of roasted prime rib. Owen Monroe, perched on a stack of cushions, carefully arranged his food, the way Layla had taught him. Everything was as it should be, until the whispers started. As Layla reached to cut Owen Monroe's chicken, her eyes landed on her Linda Callahan's phone, face up beside the salad bowl. The message was meant for Vanessa Callahan, but it felt like a direct blow to Layla's chest. "He's just too much. Cass never gets it. I wish she'd leave him at home." Her heart sank, and in that instant, the pristine image of family crumbled. Layla's smile faltered. For a moment, everything around her was too loud: the clinking of silverware, the rustle of napkins, the subtle ticking of the clock on the wall. Owen Monroe, oblivious, hummed softly to himself, lining up his chicken pieces in perfect squares. The tension thickened as her Linda Callahan sighed. "This is what happens when you coddle them," she muttered under her breath. And then a rolling eye from Vanessa Callahan as Owen Monroe covered his ears from the noise of her father's loud phone call. "Control your kid," she snapped. Layla's breath hitched, but she held back the tears. She couldn't let this hurt show. Not now, not in front of them. But the truth was undeniable. Each Sunday, Layla promised herself it would be the last time, only to convince herself by the next weekend that family connections were worth the emotional toll. When Vanessa Callahan finally breezed in, hours late as usual, she wasn't alone. She floated into the room with a tall, handsome man, a brand-new Parisian boyfriend named Philippe, as if she expected applause. "He works in luxury goods distribution," she announced proudly, her voice dripping with entitlement. Layla wanted to scream. This wasn't a family gathering. It was a parade of pretension. As she tried to hold it together for Owen Monroe, who sat there unaware of the judgment, a bitter truth dawned on Layla. The family she had hoped to return to wasn't the one she remembered. It was one built on status, expectations, and rejection. And as much as she loved them, maybe it was time to let go. Layla Monroe's hand trembled as she reached for her water glass, trying to ignore the laughter bouncing around the table. The soft flicker of light reflected off Vanessa Callahan's perfume bottle, casting sharp shards of brightness on Owen Monroe's wide, uncertain eyes. The smell, intensely floral, sharp, invasive, hung in the air like a weight, and Owen Monroe's breath caught. The room fell quiet for a moment. Then she felt her Greg Callahan's expectant gaze and her mom's impatient sigh, each one chipping away at her resolve. What if this was the moment she couldn't protect him? Vanessa Callahan's voice cut through the silence. "Control your kid, Layla," she snapped as Owen Monroe desperately covered his ears, his face twisting in discomfort. Layla's heart sank, but she didn't let the tears fall. Not here, not now. But it wasn't just the scent, was it? It wasn't about perfume. It was the tension building for years, the ever-present weight of expectations. She had tried to make it work, had convinced herself every Sunday would be different. But what if this was the last straw? Could she really keep pretending? Or was this the moment she had to choose her son over everything else? Vanessa Callahan swirled her new luxury perfume, a $400 scent from a brand no one had ever heard of. The bottle glittered in the chandelier's light, an offering of elegance and exclusivity. She flashed it proudly. Maison Laurent. Only 300 bottles made. Layla could hear her Linda Callahan's voice drip with admiration. "Let us smell it, darling." And just like that, everything shifted. Layla tried to quietly signal to Owen Monroe that maybe they should step outside. But before she could react, Vanessa Callahan had already unleashed the cloud of perfume, filling the room with an overwhelming burst of jasmine, vanilla, and musk. Owen Monroe's face went pale as he clutched his nose, his eyes watering from the intensity. He wasn't being rude, he was simply struggling. Layla spoke quickly, her voice calm. "It's just a bit much for him. He's sensitive to strong scents." But the damage was done. Vanessa Callahan's eyes narrowed. "What's wrong with him?" she shot as if Owen Monroe's discomfort was a personal attack on her new luxury perfume. Layla froze. Was this who they really were? She thought she knew her family, but maybe, just maybe, she didn't anymore. "Nothing personal," Vanessa Callahan snapped, her voice dripping with disdain. "This perfume costs more than your monthly rent, Layla. Philippe had to pull strings just to get it." The atmosphere shifted instantly. Tension hung thick in the air, squeezing out the light-hearted banter that filled the room moments before. Philippe squirmed, focused on his wine glass like it held the answers to the universe. Greg Callahan cleared his throat, diving into small talk about the stock market, his go-to move for uncomfortable moments. Mom adjusted her pearl necklace, eyes darting back and forth. "I get that it's special," I said softly, pouring some water for Owen Monroe, who was still looking overwhelmed. "But he has sensory processing issues. Strong smells can be tough for him." I hoped they'd understand, that it wouldn't be taken as a slight against Vanessa Callahan's prized possession. Her expression hardened. "Oh, so it's my fault?" Vanessa Callahan shot back, voice rising. "He's just difficult and spoiled. You trained him to be the center of attention." "Vanessa Callahan, please." My instincts kicked in. I needed to shield Owen Monroe, but it was too late. Vanessa Callahan was already gliding around the table, the glimmering bottle clenched in her expertly manicured hand. "Don't you want to smell nice for once, Owen Monroe?" she chirped, that saccharine tone making my skin crawl. I moved to stand between them, heart racing. But in an instant, she leaned down, thrusting the bottle at Owen Monroe's terrified face. "Stop being so dramatic," she hissed. "It's just perfume. This is what normal people do." And then, as if time slowed, Vanessa Callahan pulled the trigger. 3 sprays shot directly into Owen Monroe's eyes. His response was immediate, a heart-wrenching scream tearing through the room. "It burns, Mommy! It burns!" Everyone froze, the reality of what just happened crashing down like a heavy rain. The bright chandelier cast cold shadows, and the silence enveloped us, thick and suffocating. I felt a chill creep up my spine. What had just blurred the lines between playful and cruel? Was it possible that Owen Monroe's struggles might mirror our own failings? In that moment, vulnerability hung in the air, and a twisted reflection of cruelty gripped us all tight. Would we choose kindness, or would we continue to shield ourselves in the guise of normalcy? The sharp scent of perfume hung in the air, mingling with the stifling silence that filled the room. Owen Monroe's screams echoed through my mind, each one a jagged piece of a nightmare. But what cut deeper than the pain on his face was the cold indifference of my family. They laughed. My own Linda Callahan, the woman who should have been my ally, stifled her laughter behind a napkin, her shoulders shaking with amusement. My father, oh, my father, raised his wineglass in mock celebration. "Well, at least he smells better now," he chuckled. It felt like the world was turning upside down. How had we gotten here? How had this become normal? My heart raced as I scooped Owen Monroe into my arms, his tiny body trembling with fear and pain. I could hardly see through my own tears of rage. What had I done wrong? Why was my family so blind to the truth? "That's alcohol, Vanessa Callahan," I shouted, my voice barely breaking through the haze of disbelief. But she just stood there, perfume bottle in hand, arms crossed. "He needs to learn manners," she snapped like this was some kind of lesson. And then my Linda Callahan, her voice dripping with mockery, added, "If he's blind now, maybe he won't be such a burden." The words sliced through me. A burden? Owen Monroe? My son? In the cold silence that followed, I felt a deep, visceral pang of grief. This wasn't just about perfume or a misplaced joke. It was about rejection, about a family that would rather conform to their own version of normal than offer the love and understanding Owen Monroe deserved. I rushed to the sink, my hands shaking as I tried to flush the perfume from his eyes, but the damage was done. Owen Monroe cried, his little hands desperately trying to rub away the sting, making it worse. My own anger bubbled over, mixing with guilt, fear, and a quiet despair that I couldn't escape. "What's wrong with you people?" I muttered under my breath. How could they just sit there and pretend nothing had happened? I wasn't overreacting. I wasn't being dramatic. I was fighting for my son's safety, and for his place in a world that seemed determined to exclude him. I held him close, pressing his trembling form against me, feeling his tiny heart racing. It wasn't just about this moment. It was about everything that led up to it. Owen Monroe had always been different, but I had always believed that our love could shield him. That was the lie I had been telling myself. Now, standing there, I realized the truth. No matter how fiercely I fought for him, I couldn't change the world or my family. Only Owen Monroe could decide who he would become, and I would stand by him, every step of the way. The clink of silverware against plates, my Linda Callahan's artificial laugh at something Phipe said. "We're leaving," I announced, returning to grab my purse and Owen Monroe's jacket. He clung to me, his face buried against my shoulder, still whimpering in pain. "But we haven't had dessert," my Linda Callahan protested. "I made creme brulee." "I don't care if you made gold-plated chocolate," I snapped. "My son needs a doctor. You always ruin these dinners with your overreactions," Vanessa Callahan said. Now, reapplying her lipstick as if assaulting a child was just a minor interruption to her evening. Greg Callahan barely looked up from his meal. "Call us when you've calmed down, Cassie. You're being irrational." I stood in the doorway, my injured son in my arms, and looked at these people who shared my blood, but apparently not my humanity. What's irrational is that none of you see anything wrong with what just happened. As I buckled Owen Monroe into his car seat, his eyes red and swollen, his cheeks tracked with tears, I felt something fundamental shift inside me. The unease and discomfort I'd been suppressing for years crystallized into a cold, clear certainty. These people were not safe for my child or for me. "It's okay, buddy," I whispered, though nothing about this situation was okay. "We're going to get your eyes fixed up. Everything will be all right." But as I drove toward the emergency room, the sound of my family's laughter echoing in my mind, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. The emergency room at Mercy General was busy that Sunday evening. I carried Owen Monroe through the automatic doors, his face pressed against my shoulder, small whimpers escaping with each breath. The fluorescent lights seemed to aggravate his pain, and he kept his eyes tightly shut. My son had perfume sprayed directly into his eyes. I told the triage nurse, my voice surprisingly steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. It was about 20 minutes ago. A faint haze of gardenia hung in the air, sharp and bitter, the same scent that had triggered the chaos just hours before. Ila Monroe's heart raced as memories flooded back. She could still see Owen's tiny fists pressed to his face, his voice lost in panic. The echoes of her family's shouting filled her mind, louder than the rushing faucet, the sharp sting of perfume cutting through her throat. Each traffic light on the way to Maplewood Health Center felt like an eternity, the grip on her steering wheel tightening with every pulse of anxiety. As she rushed into the clinic, Layla breathed in the sterile scent of antiseptic, a stark contrast to the gardenia that haunted her. The waiting room was a blur. Patients glanced up, but their eyes quickly dropped back to their phones. Nobody understood the storm brewing inside her. Owen clung to her, his tears leaving damp spots on her shirt, a haunting reminder of his vulnerability. In the examination room, a kind nurse with gentle eyes immediately assessed the situation. "Chemical exposure to the eyes is a priority," came her calm voice as she ushered them away from the waiting area. The air buzzed with urgency, and for a moment, Layla felt a flicker of hope. Dr. Patel entered, her demeanor professional yet warm. "Can you tell me exactly what happened?" she asked. Taking a steadying breath, Layla recalled that moment. Her sister, Vanessa Callahan, had deliberately sprayed perfume in Owen's eyes. The weight of the truth pressed down on her chest. Dr. Patel's expression was neutral, but Layla noticed a quick glance exchanged with the nurse. How long ago? Was it only 20 minutes? It felt like a lifetime. "I tried flushing his eyes with water," she admitted, the memory of trying to comfort Owen replaying in her mind. As the doctor examined Owen, he whimpered softly, his tiny frame trembling. "Will there be permanent damage?" Layla's voice wavered, betraying her. "Most perfume exposures don't cause lasting harm," Dr. Patel assured her, "but we need to clean it thoroughly." Layla watched with bated breath as the nurse began the eye-flushing process, explaining each step to Owen. Meanwhile, Dr. Patel pulled Layla aside, her voice turning serious. "Mrs. Wilson, I need to ask you something directly. Was this truly deliberate?" For a moment, time stood still. The question hit her like a punch, forcing her to confront the harsh truth. "Yes," she replied, feeling a cold anger rise. He was covering his nose because the smell was too strong for him. The stark reality of family cruelty seeped into Layla's bones. She knew then she wouldn't allow anyone to harm her son ever again. In that moment, surrounded by sterile walls and flashing lights, she resolved to protect Owen fiercely, no matter the cost. As the tears pooled in her eyes, she felt a deep sense of determination. Owen deserved kindness and understanding, and she would fight for his place in the world. They weren't just family. They were warriors against a tide of misunderstanding. And as long as she stood by him, they would find belonging together. Ila Monroe's knuckles turned white, gripping the chair as Dr. Patel's words hung in the air. The tension was palpable. Owen Monroe whimpered softly, his big eyes blinking rapidly, hands balled tightly on his lap. He was always so sensitive. The sterile room felt like a glass box, each echo amplifying the laughter that had just haunted them. Would anyone dare to speak up now, with a social worker on the way? Who would defend Owen Monroe when the walls finally closed in around him? 3 sprays right at his face, Layla said, the memory flooding back. Vanessa Callahan's cruel laughter bounced in her head. If he goes blind, at least he won't see he's a burden. Could they really think that? Layla's heart sank as her father added, "At least he smells better now." Dr. Patel paused, her professional mask slipping just a bit, revealing concern for the child. "I'm going to have our social worker stop by to speak with you," she said softly. Mandatory reporting. The weight of the words pressed down on Layla. It wasn't just an accusation. It was a cold reality creeping in. Everything flashed before her eyes, each careless incident from the past year. Vanessa tripping Owen Monroe at Christmas, the bruise from a door swung open too hard, a hot soup spill that had nearly scalded him, all dismissed as jokes. It was a pattern, not just today. After flushing Owen Monroe's eyes, Dr. Patel returned, her voice steady. "There's no evidence of serious damage, just chemical conjunctivitis. We'll patch his eyes for the night." Relief washed over Layla like rain against thirsty soil, but fear pulsed in the back of her mind. As Owen Monroe lay there, patches covering his injured eyes, the social worker, Marissa, approached with a compassionate focus. "What you're describing is concerning," she said after listening to Layla's recount of events. Outside, wind rustled through the trees, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside Layla. Would anyone in this world truly understand the depth of her son's struggles? Could she protect him from the very family that should embrace him? Time slowed as dread knotted in her stomach. She would fight for Owen Monroe. He deserved kindness, understanding, a place where he could belong. Would she rise to the challenge? The answer loomed before her. Her son's safety depended on it. Layla Monroe's hand trembled as she scrolled through the barrage of furious messages, her heart sinking with every word. The weight of her family's cold disregard for her son crushed her chest. Owen stood by, his innocent eyes wide, sensing her unease but unable to grasp the storm in her heart. Every second of silence felt like a heavy pause, the tension thick enough to suffocate. How could she explain this to Owen, to herself? And what would happen if she called them back? The messages were clear, no concern for Owen, only anger. Her Linda Callahan's voice dripped with contempt. "You embarrassed all of us. The kid was being annoying anyway." Her father's tone was sharp and defensive, dismissing Layla's pain with cruel indifference. "Vanessa Callahan thinks you're insane. Way to ruin dinner." The room felt smaller, suffocating, and yet Layla couldn't escape the truth staring back at her. Could they really be this heartless? Marissa, the social worker, noticed the unread messages. "Are these from your family?" she asked gently, glancing at Layla's pale face. Layla nodded, her heart pounding. Marissa's expression hardened as she read the texts, and her next words landed like a heavy blow. "Based on what I'm seeing, I recommend you limit contact. Consider speaking with a family lawyer. Document everything." As Marissa left, the room seemed to close in around Layla. Owen slept fitfully beside her, his small hand limp in hers. The hospital room was too quiet, the soft beeps from the hallway a haunting reminder of the fragility of it all. Guilt and fury warred within her, the shame she felt for allowing Owen to endure this, the rage at her family for ignoring his suffering, and the overwhelming resolve to protect him at any cost. The nurse, Tamika, moved silently around the room, checking Owen's vitals with a practiced hand, but Layla barely noticed. She had no time for silence. Not now. Owen was her world, and if her family couldn't see that, she would have to fight alone. Would she? Could she? Layla knew the answer. Every Linda Callahan has a breaking point, and she was about to cross it. In the warmth of a crowded living room after Thanksgiving, laughter filled the air. Then came a sweet, syrupy floral haze, Vanessa Callahan's perfume. Owen Monroe, just a little boy, found himself trembling, tiny hands covering his face, overwhelmed. The laughter was still there, but for Owen it faded into the background. His wide eyes brimmed with fear. It was in this moment that Layla Monroe, his Linda Callahan, understood the truth. Her son was not simply sensitive. His world was a cacophony of sounds and smells that could overwhelm him in seconds. While everyone else teased, she recognized Owen's need for comfort beneath layers of laughter and ignorance. Couldn't they see? For Owen, the holidays were supposed to mean safety and joy, not chaos and rejection. As she fought through teary memories, Layla realized how often her family dismissed Owen's struggles. They overlooked his sensory challenges, viewing them as mere quirks rather than the real obstacles they were. But one thing was clear. She was ready to fight for her son against anyone, family included, who failed to understand him. The hospital room was eerily quiet. Owen, still groggy from medication, lay vulnerable against the blue pillowcase, his white eye patches highlighting just how small he seemed. Layla tucked in his favorite dinosaur plush, a small comfort in a chaotic world. The day had been a blur of emotions and fear. As she sat on the couch, exhausted, the blinking voicemail indicator on her phone caught her eye. If only she hadn't listened. Her Linda Callahan's voice cut through the silence, sharp and demanding. "Layla Monroe, you're blowing this out of proportion. Call me back immediately." Followed by her father, insisting that Vanessa Callahan's embarrassment needed to be addressed. Layla's heart sank. No concern for Owen's well-being, just tone-deaf demands that echoed the same callousness she had faced for years. When her Linda Callahan called again, Layla could hardly contain her disbelief. "Do you know what time it is?" she challenged, weariness coating her words. But her Linda Callahan snapped back, "Don't take that tone with me. You need to apologize." It was almost laughable. Did her Linda Callahan truly not understand? Vanessa Callahan sprayed chemical perfume in Owen's eyes. He needed to be treated at the emergency room because of it. A stunned silence followed. "Child abuse?" her Linda Callahan gasped. It was a defense mechanism brewing in the air. In that moment, Layla recognized a painful truth. Her Linda Callahan would always defend Vanessa Callahan, no matter the harm. "Mom, listen to me," Layla said, voice steady despite her racing heart. "What Vanessa Callahan did was harmful. Your response is cruel." Layla knew she had to choose, family loyalty or the safety of her son. With clarity and conviction, she understood that her journey toward acceptance, for Owen's sake, had only just begun. The scent of rain clung to the air as Layla Monroe stood in her kitchen, the voicemail light blinking like a warning. Her hands trembled. The messages played on loop. Sharp voices, cold demands. "You're being ridiculous," her Linda Callahan snapped. "What about Sunday dinner? Your father has clients." Layla stared at the phone. Did they hear nothing? Owen was sleeping upstairs with gauze over his eyes, chemical burns, a plush dinosaur tucked beside him, and all they cared about was dinner. She whispered, "My son was hurt." Her voice cracked. "He's in pain." "Don't raise your voice," her Linda Callahan barked. "Vanessa Callahan gets frustrated with you. You've always been too sensitive." Layla ended the call. Her fingers clenched the phone. 5 minutes later, it rang again. Her father's voice was colder than the rain. "Your Linda Callahan is crying. You need to apologize. To Vanessa Callahan. To us." "She hurt Owen," Layla said. "The ER doctor called it abuse." "She was teaching him manners," he replied. "You've always been jealous of her." The words hit like fists. "You think I'd use my son's pain for attention?" "You've never fit in," he said. "Vanessa Callahan knows what's expected. You chose a different path." Layla's breath slowed. Her voice was steady. "You're right. I don't fit in. Because I'd never laugh at a child's pain. I'd never choose appearances over kindness. And I'd never dismiss my son's suffering as inconvenient." Silence. Then the final blow. "You're being melodramatic. We expect you both at the gathering. Vanessa Callahan's announcing her engagement." The camera lingers on Layla's face. Her eyes don't blink. Her hands, still trembling, reach for Owen's toy in the hallway. It's untouched. The soft rustle of leaves outside, the quiet hum of the fridge, and the absence of footsteps. Owen hasn't come home. The story shifts. Through Owen's eyes, the world is fragmented. Colors too bright, sounds too sharp. The hallway feels unfamiliar. The toy, once comforting, now distant. He craves safety. not proximity. Layla stands alone, not in defiance, but in clarity. Her son chose peace over family, and she chose him. You'll both need to apologize to Vanessa Callahan for ruining her special dinner. Engagement. She just met him. They've been dating long distance for months. Not that you've bothered to take an interest in your sister's life. The point is, this is an important event, and we expect you to be there, both of you. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what needed to be said. No, Greg Callahan. We won't be there. Not next weekend, not for Christmas, not for any family gathering until there is a genuine acknowledgement of what happened and a sincere apology to Owen Monroe. There was a long silence. Then my father's voice turned icy. If that's your position, then you should know there will be consequences. Your Linda Callahan and I have been generous with helping you financially since your divorce. That help is contingent on being part of this family, being at family gatherings, maintaining appearances. Are you threatening to cut me off if I don't bring my abused child to apologize to his abuser? Don't be so dramatic. I'm simply stating facts. Actions have consequences. Ila Monroe, you're a grown woman with a child. It's time you understood how the real world works. I understand perfectly, I replied, a strange calm settling over me. And I want you to understand something, too. My son's safety and dignity are worth more than your money or approval. I don't want or need either if they come with these conditions. I ended the call and turned off my phone, too, emotionally exhausted to deal with any more messages or calls. I checked on Owen Monroe, relieved to find him sleeping peacefully despite the patches on his eyes, then curled up in the armchair next to his bed, unwilling to leave him alone even for the few hours until his next medication. As I drifted in and out of a fitful sleep, my father's words echoed in my mind. Actions have consequences. He meant it as a threat, but as the first light of dawn crept through the blinds, I realized it was actually a promise. Their actions would indeed have consequences, just not the kind they were expecting. The next morning, I called in to work and explained the situation to my supervisor, who immediately approved emergency family leave. Owen Monroe woke disoriented and in pain, confused about why he couldn't see and why his eyes hurt so badly. I explained as gently as I could, carefully administering his eye drops and making his favorite breakfast of dinosaur-shaped pancakes. "When can I take these off?" he asked, his small fingers reaching toward the patches. "Well, see Dr. Patel this afternoon, and she'll tell us," I explained. "Until then, they're helping your eyes get better." "Did Aunt Vanessa Callahan mean to hurt me?" he asked suddenly, his voice small. The question broke my heart. Children have an innate desire to believe the best of adults, especially family members. How do you explain deliberate cruelty to a 4-year-old? "Sometimes adults do wrong things," I said carefully. "What Vanessa Callahan did was wrong, and it hurt you. That's not okay, no matter who does it." Grandma and Grandpa laughed, he said, pushing his untouched pancakes around the plate. Why did they think it was funny? I took his small hand in mine. They were wrong too, buddy. Sometimes people we love make bad choices. Our appointment with Dr. Patel brought good news. Owen Monroe's eyes showed significant improvement, and she believed there would be no permanent damage. She removed the patches, but prescribed continued use of the eye drops and recommended minimal screen time for the next week. "I've made a referral to Dr. Sampson," she told me quietly while a nurse was helping Owen Monroe choose a sticker. "She's an excellent child psychologist who can help Owen Monroe process what happened." "Thank you," I said, grateful for her thoroughness. "And what about the report?" "Child Protective Services has been notified," she confirmed. "Given that you're taking appropriate protective action and seeking proper care, their focus will likely be on the individuals who caused harm." That afternoon, I made 3 important calls. The first was to Owen Monroe's family doctor, Dr. Rivera, who fit us in for an appointment the following day to follow up on his eye treatment and discuss the emotional impact of what had happened. The second call was to a therapist named Dr. Lauren Bennett, who specialized in family trauma. I scheduled an appointment for myself, recognizing that I needed professional support to navigate the complex emotions and challenges ahead. The third call was to a family law attorney recommended by Dr. Patel. The receptionist, hearing the broad outlines of the situation, scheduled an urgent consultation for the following week. That evening, Jessica, a fellow nurse from work, came by with dinner for us and small gifts for Owen Monroe. While he played with the new puzzle she'd brought, Jessica and I talked quietly in the kitchen. "I can't believe your own family would do this," she said, shaking her head in disbelief. "How's he doing, really?" "Physically, he's improving." Emotionally, I glanced toward the living room where Owen Monroe was carefully placing puzzle pieces. He's confused. He keeps asking why Aunt Vanessa Callahan wanted to hurt him, why his grandparents thought it was funny. "What are you going to do about your family?" "Keep my distance. Set firm boundaries. I've already told my parents we won't be at any family gatherings until there's acknowledgement and a sincere apology, which I doubt will ever come." Jessica hesitated, then said, "My brother Daniel is an attorney who specializes in child advocacy. He might have some insights about protective measures you could take. Would you be open to talking with him?" I nodded gratefully. At this point, I need all the support and guidance I can get. Over the next 2 weeks, a transformation began, both in our daily lives and in my own understanding of what family truly means. The afternoon sun cast long shadows as Ila Monroe clutched the phone receiver tightly. The weight of her family's cruelty pressed heavily on her chest. Memories flooded her mind. Sitting on that childhood porch, its peeling paint rough under her fingers. The sweet scent of her Linda Callahan's perfume haunted the air, a stark contrast to the joyful laughter ringing out from inside. She listened, heart racing, wondering if she could ever shield her son Owen from this invisible pain. "How can I protect him?" she whispered, her voice trembling. At just 9 years old, Owen Monroe faced challenges far greater than his tender age should allow. Dr. Sampson, his new child psychologist, gently reminded Layla of his resilience after their third session. "He needs consistency now, clear boundaries, and he needs you, Layla." She felt a flicker of hope. Owen was sensitive and vulnerable, but together they would face the world. Meanwhile, her sessions with Dr. Bennett became a lifeline. Together, they peeled back the layers of the past, exposing the toxic family dynamics that had long shaped her reality. "You're breaking generations of emotional manipulation," Dr. Bennett assured her. But it was Daniel, Jessica's brother, who offered practical advice over coffee. "You have grounds for a restraining order against your sister if necessary," he said, coffee cooling in front of them. Layla's heart raced. The reality of standing against her own family loomed before her. Determined, she began documenting everything, each interaction unraveling the web of manipulation, a pattern she could no longer ignore. The times Vanessa Callahan's accidents had only hurt Owen, and their parents' dismissive comments about his needs wove a painful tapestry of rejection. Support came from unexpected places. A single-parent group led by Monica lifted her spirits. "Family is defined by love, respect, and safety," Monica said, her eyes glistening with tears of understanding. Layla realized she wasn't alone. Blood relations didn't define her family. Love did. With each step, she became more resolute, more protective. Not just for Owen, and not only for herself, but for the future they could carve out together, free from the invisible bruises of the past. How could she let Owen know he was unconditionally accepted? How could she show him that every storm could lead to a rainbow? Together, they would find their way, one day at a time. The smell of sautéed garlic filled the kitchen, a quiet reminder of a new routine that was slowly becoming their normal. Ila Monroe stood there, tense, her fingers curling around the phone. Owen was in the next room, lost in his toys, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just outside their door. Then, the voice on the other end broke the calm. "I heard what happened with Vanessa Callahan and Owen Monroe. I wanted to check on you both." Megan's voice wavered. It was the first time in over a year she'd reached out, and every word felt like a thread being pulled, unraveling something Layla wasn't sure she was ready to confront. Layla's heart raced. Why now? Why after everything? She swallowed, her mind racing through the years of family tension, toxic expectations, and that endless pressure to be perfect. "We're doing okay," Layla said, her voice careful, each word a shield. But Megan wasn't buying it. "Vanessa Callahan's telling people you're mentally unstable, making up stories about her," Megan said flatly. "But I don't believe her." Layla froze. How could Megan, someone she hadn't spoken to in so long, see through it all? But then Megan's next words hit her like a ton of bricks. "My mom always said Vanessa Callahan was Ruth's little mirror image," Megan continued. "And Aunt Ruth, she was never kind to kids." Suddenly, it clicked. Ruth was her grandmother, and that cruel, perfectionist streak had always run deep in the family. Megan's voice cracked as she dug deeper. "You're not the first person Vanessa Callahan's hurt. Do you remember my brother's wedding? 5 years ago? Vanessa Callahan spilled red wine on my daughter's dress just before the ceremony. Lily was getting too much attention. Everyone said I was overreacting, just like they always did." Layla felt the sting of those old wounds, the lies, and the denial that had been shoved down her throat for so long. It was like watching a dark, hidden side of her family come to light. But now, with Owen by her side, Layla wasn't backing down. She could finally see the cracks in the armor. Would this be the moment she finally took a stand? Or would the weight of her family's expectations break her? Outside, the night pressed in, too quiet. Ila Monroe's hand hovered over the last sentence in her journal. Her heart hammered in the silence. Owen stirred in the next room. A soft whimper, maybe just a dream, or maybe it was something more. What if their family learned about what she'd been documenting? What would they do if her resolve was exposed? The air felt thick with danger and unfinished business. Was Owen truly safe tonight, or had she only delayed the storm? By the end of her conversation, Megan had revealed 3 other incidents showcasing Vanessa Callahan's calculated cruelty, each minimized or excused by the family. "I wasn't alone. This pattern runs deep," Megan said, regret shading her voice. "If we'd spoken up sooner, maybe things wouldn't have escalated." That night, after tucking Owen into bed, Layla sat at her kitchen table, flipping through her journal. Each entry weighed heavily with past incidents. With Megan's accounts added, the evidence was undeniable. Vanessa Callahan's behavior had spiraled over the years, enabled by her parents' willful blindness. Layla's decision to protect Owen wasn't an overreaction. It was essential. Finally, this realization granted her a sense of purpose. With clarity came determination. The path ahead would be rough, but she now had the conviction that safeguarding her son mattered more than maintaining the illusion of family harmony. As she closed her journal that night, something remarkable surged within her. Peace. Not because everything was resolved, but because she finally trusted herself to do what was right, regardless of the crushing weight of their expectations. 3 weeks later, she had just put Owen down for his afternoon nap when aggressive knocking startled her. Opening the door, she found Vanessa Callahan standing there, immaculately dressed in a designer outfit. The mixture of annoyance and condescension on her face spoke volumes. Would this confrontation unravel everything Layla had built? Would it threaten the safety she had finally carved out for Owen? "We need to talk," she announced, attempting to push past me into the apartment. I blocked the doorway. "This isn't a good time. Owen Monroe is napping. This isn't about Owen Monroe. It's about you spreading lies about me." Her voice rose sharply. "My reputation is on the line." I kept my voice deliberately calm and quiet. "I haven't spread any lies. Now please leave before you wake Owen Monroe." Vanessa Callahan's eyes narrowed. "You told doctors I abused your kid. You got some social worker involved. You're not answering Mom and Greg Callahan's calls. You missed the engagement announcement. You're tearing the family apart with your dramatics. What happened wasn't a lie. Vanessa Callahan, you deliberately sprayed perfume in Owen Monroe's eyes. That's not something I'm willing to pretend didn't happen." Her face flushed with anger. "It was a joke. God, you've always been so uptight. And now you're threatening me with some kind of legal action. Mom told me you're talking to lawyers." I noticed my neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, watching discreetly from her doorway, clearly concerned about the escalating confrontation. Remembering Daniel's advice about documentation, I reached for my phone in my pocket and subtly started recording. "Vanessa Callahan, what you did caused Owen Monroe to need emergency medical treatment. The doctors were legally required to report it. I'm not pressing charges, but I am establishing boundaries to protect my son." "Boundaries?" she scoffed. "You mean cutting off the family that supported you through every failure? Where would you be without Mom and Greg Callahan's help after James left you? Probably in some shelter." I took a deep breath, refusing to be baited. I appreciate the help they've provided, but it doesn't give anyone the right to hurt my child. "I'm warning you, Ila Monroe," she hissed, jabbing a finger toward my face. "If you don't stop this nonsense, I'll sue you for defamation. I have connections, important friends. I can make life very difficult for you. Are you threatening me? I'm explaining reality." The sharp scent of disinfectant hit Layla Monroe like a punch, instantly pulling her back to the sterile hospital hallway. She could feel the weight of Owen's tiny body pressed against her arm as he tried to block out the buzzing overhead lights. Every beep, every shuffle of feet felt like a jackhammer to his sensitive mind, and all she could do was stroke his hair and whisper, "I'll protect you." The pity in the nurse's eyes stung more than she expected. But that moment, that was when Layla's armor was forged. The more her family attacked her, the more determined she became to shield her son. Nothing, absolutely nothing, would break her. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Owen Monroe, just a kid, was already fighting battles most people couldn't even imagine. Sensory overload, emotional turbulence, and when his family, his own flesh and blood, couldn't understand, the pain grew tenfold. All Owen wanted was to feel safe, understood, to finally find peace. But instead, his world was filled with rejection, misunderstanding, and cruelty. Layla couldn't believe her sister, Vanessa Callahan, would do something like this. The perfume, the way it made Owen's eyes burn and his body go limp. Layla's heart still ached every time she thought about it. And yet, Vanessa Callahan stood there, defending herself, making it seem like it was no big deal. But Layla knew better. This wasn't just about perfume. It was about something much deeper. Vanessa Callahan's voice grew louder, more accusatory. "You're ruining the family," she spat. "You're always making drama out of nothing. You're pushing us away over some dumb, little thing." The words felt like daggers, each one aimed at her heart. Layla's throat tightened, but she held firm. "I'm protecting my son," she said quietly. "That's all I've ever wanted." But the cold reality hit her. Her family wasn't on her side. They saw her as the problem, the one causing all the rifts. They didn't care about Owen's pain. And worse, they didn't care about Layla's boundaries. When they pushed her, she pushed back harder. If protecting her son meant walking away from everything she once knew, so be it. Vanessa Callahan's mocking laugh echoed in the room, bitter and cutting. "Oh, you'll call the police? Go ahead, see who they believe, the successful executive or the struggling mom with mental health issues." Layla couldn't hold back any longer. The truth was out in the open. Her sister, her parents, they were all in on it, casting doubt on her son, just to save face. And in that moment, Layla finally saw her family for what they truly were. Her jaw clenched. "We're done here," Layla said, voice steady. "We're done when I say we're done," Vanessa Callahan shot back, her eyes narrowing. "You're going to apologize. You're going to bring Owen to the family portrait. He needs to look normal." Layla didn't flinch. "No, Vanessa Callahan. What Owen needs is love, not your twisted version of normal. Layla wasn't backing down. Not for her sister. Not for anyone. The stakes had never been clearer. The scent of rain drifted in through the cracked window. Somewhere outside, leaves rustled against the pavement. Inside the family townhouse, the air was thick, too quiet, too still. Ila Monroe stood across from her sister, Vanessa Callahan, and saw something she hadn't let herself see before. Not the polished executive with the curated life, but a woman unraveling. A woman who'd traded compassion for control. Layla's voice didn't shake. "I've been recording this entire conversation." Vanessa blinked. Her face paled. "You admitted what happened. You minimized harm to Owen. You threatened my job. You can't record me without permission. In this state, I can." Daniel explained that. Daniel? My attorney. That part wasn't entirely true, but Vanessa didn't need to know. "You got a lawyer?" Layla nodded slowly. "And statements. From Megan. From others. About the wedding. About the dress." Vanessa's mask cracked. "No one will believe you. You're the disappointment. The one with the defective kid." Layla didn't flinch. "I have medical records, witnesses, this recording. What do you have? Mom and Greg Callahan's protection." Vanessa stepped back toward the elevator. "You'll regret this. When you're alone. With your weird kid. No family. No support." The door clicked shut behind her. Layla leaned against it. Her heart thudded. Her fingers trembled. She checked the recording. Every word, every threat. Clear as day. She sent it to Daniel. He called within minutes. But before Layla could speak, Owen stood up. His voice was quiet, steady. "Does pretending not to care make it easier?" The room froze. Vanessa turned. Layla stared. Owen's eyes didn't waver. He'd heard that line months ago. He remembered. He understood. And now, he repeated it. Not in anger, not in confusion, just truth. The kind that cuts deeper than any adult's argument. Suddenly, it wasn't about Layla defending Owen. It was about the cost of pretending. The cost of performance. The cost of cruelty dressed as strength. And the child. The one they dismissed. He'd just reframed everything. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full. Full of reckoning. Full of clarity. Full of Owen. Layla squeezed Owen's hand as the clock ticked closer to the moment that could change everything. The air in the room felt thick, as if time itself was holding its breath. Owen's eyes darted to the door, his body tense with uncertainty. Layla's heartbeat echoed in her ears, each pulse a reminder of everything that had led to this point. The stakes were high, too high to ignore. Would Brooke Matthews, an investigator with the power to see past the family's web of lies, finally hear the truth about what had really happened? Or would the lies about Owen be enough to drown out the honesty in the room? Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway, a reminder that the moment had arrived. Owen's breathing grew shallow. Layla's palms grew damp. And then, a knock. Could they finally fight back? Or was it already too late? The next day, Daniel gave his advice, and Layla filed a complaint. It wasn't just the medical records or Owen's ER visit. It was the threats, proof that Vanessa Callahan had gone too far. The investigation would begin. But the ripple effects were immediate. Her parents' frantic calls, their anger, their desperation for the entire thing to go away. Layla didn't call back. She had bigger things to worry about. Like Owen, whose nightmares had finally started to subside thanks to his therapy sessions with Dr. Sampson. But even that peace felt fragile. Then came an unexpected message from Philippe, Vanessa Callahan's French boyfriend. Layla's stomach twisted. What now? The subject line hit like a lightning bolt. "You should know. I have ended my relationship with Vanessa Callahan." The words from Philippe, Vanessa Callahan's French boyfriend, hung in the air, heavy with truth. "What I witnessed at your parents' home was disturbing," he wrote. "Imagine it. Disturbing enough to wake a stranger from complacency. After learning of similar incidents in her past, I cannot in good conscience proceed with our engagement. I should have spoken up when she hurt your son. For that failure, I apologize." At that moment, the walls around Vanessa Callahan's carefully crafted image began to crumble. Her facade, built on lies, was peeling away. Philippe revealed that Vanessa Callahan's employer had suspended her pending an investigation. Someone had finally dared to connect the dots. "One of my colleagues had a child treated by you," he continued, "and they raised concerns at HR." It was as if the universe conspired to reveal the truth at last, shaking loose all the secrets family loyalty had kept hidden. Weeks later, the investigator, Brooke Matthews, confirmed everything. Vanessa Callahan's history, her troubling behavior toward children, was not just background noise, it was the soundtrack of a life concealed. "Your parents are attempting to influence the investigation," Brooke told me during a follow-up. "They've contacted my supervisor and offered a hefty donation." I felt a chill wash over me. It was classic Callahan, the illusion of power cloaked in money. But Brooke stood firm. "We take these cases seriously, regardless of a family's social or financial status." With each passing day, the protective order against Vanessa Callahan was closer to becoming reality. I could almost taste the hope mixed with fear, like the scent of rain just before a storm. Would it be enough to protect Owen? Or was the darkness still lurking? As the calendar flipped to the end of the month, I breathed in deeply. The stakes had never been higher, and our fight was just beginning. Would this time a glimmer of justice really cut through the silence? Or would the Callahan's grip continue to smother the truth? It's late, way past midnight. Ila Monroe sits in her kitchen, surrounded by paperwork, the kind that weighs heavy on your heart. The house is quiet, only the hum of the fridge in the background. Then her phone lights up. A message, an encrypted one. It's from Owen, her son, the one who's always seemed so disconnected. She opens it with trembling hands, her heart pounding in her chest. It's a memory, an intricate one, about Vanessa Callahan, someone only Layla and Owen should know. How? How could he? The twist shatters everything she thought she knew. Owen, the boy everyone dismissed as nonverbal, has been observing far more than anyone ever realized. The truth sinks in like a cold shock. Her son, the one who's always seemed out of reach, has been hiding an ocean of thoughts, feelings, memories. And the world, including her own family, has been wrong about him all along. For years, Layla fought not just to protect Owen, but to build a world where he could belong. But now, everything's shifting. Owen isn't just the victim. He's the one who holds the key. The pain of being misunderstood, of living in the shadow of other people's expectations, crashes over Layla in waves. But so does a fierce new hope. Maybe, just maybe, Owen's voice is louder than the silence that once suffocated them. As the legal battles unfold, a sense of justice begins to take shape. Vanessa Callahan is banned from their lives, her social status crumbling. Layla doesn't take pleasure in it. But every piece of Vanessa Callahan's carefully constructed world collapsing only strengthens Layla's resolve. It wasn't revenge. No, it was protection. For Owen. For the son she will fight for, no matter the cost. The CPS investigation confirms the ugly truth. Vanessa Callahan's behavior wasn't just a few isolated incidents. It was a pattern. Her family, too, is forced to face the music. Layla's parents are asked to attend therapy if they want supervised visits with Owen. But her Linda Callahan? She can't see it. She calls it a misunderstanding. But Layla, calm as ever, reminds her, a misunderstanding doesn't send a child to the emergency room. It doesn't make him scream in his sleep. And with that quiet statement, Layla steps into a new chapter. No longer burdened by the need for approval or affection from those who failed her son, she finds peace in their distance, a peace she never thought she'd feel. The real question now: can anyone else hear the truth? Or is it too late? 6 months passed, marking half a year since the Sunday dinner that changed everything. Spring had turned to summer, and Owen Monroe and I were picnicking in the park near our new apartment. Yes, new apartment. One of many changes we'd embraced. Owen Monroe was running through the sprinklers with another boy he'd befriended, his laughter carrying across the grassy field. His eyes were completely healed with no lasting physical damage, just as Dr. Patel had predicted. The emotional healing had taken longer, but was evident in his increasingly confident interactions with other children and his decreased anxiety in new situations. I watched him play from our picnic blanket where I sat with Jessica and Daniel. What had begun as professional advice from Daniel had gradually evolved into friendship, and then cautiously something more. He was different from any man I'd dated before, patient, thoughtful, and genuinely interested in both Owen Monroe's well-being and mine. "He's doing so well," Jessica observed, watching her nephew as she called Owen Monroe, though there was no official relation race through the water. "You both are. We've had good help," I acknowledged, smiling at both of them. The support system we'd built over the past months had been crucial to our healing process. My promotion at work had been unexpected but welcome. A move to a leadership position in the pediatric department that came with better hours and increased pay. The financial stability meant I no longer had any dependence on my parents' occasional assistance, which had always come with strings attached. We had established new traditions and routines. Sunday dinners at my parents' mansion had been replaced by Sunday brunches with our chosen family, Jessica and Daniel, friends from the single parents group, and occasionally Megan and her daughter when they visited from Chicago. These gatherings were relaxed and joyful, with no crystal glasses to worry about or rigid expectations of behavior. Owen Monroe continued his sessions with Dr. Sampson, though they had reduced to twice monthly. As his progress steadied, he's developing healthy boundaries. She had noted in our last parent consultation. He's learning to trust his instincts about people and situations, which is exactly what we want to see. My own therapy with Dr. Bennett had been equally valuable, helping me recognize and begin to heal from patterns established long before Owen Monroe was born. Family dynamics are powerful, she had explained. They shape how we see ourselves and the world, but they can be changed when we become aware of them. As for my family of origin, the situation had evolved in unexpected ways. After 3 months of silence, my parents had reached out through a family therapist. They had begun seeing a step I never expected them to take. The therapist explained that they were beginning to recognize their role in enabling Vanessa Callahan's behavior and wanted to work toward possible reconciliation. "It's a process," the therapist cautioned. "They're still struggling with many aspects of accountability, but they've taken the first step." We agreed to a carefully structured meeting in the therapist's office. It was awkward and emotionally charged, with moments of defensiveness from both my parents, but also glimpses of genuine regret, particularly from my father. "I failed you," he admitted at one point, his voice uncharacteristically unsteady. "I failed Owen Monroe. I was so focused on maintaining a certain image that I lost sight of what really matters." My Linda Callahan found it harder to acknowledge her role, still clinging to the belief that family problems should remain private. But she too had moments of clarity. "I always favored Vanessa Callahan," she said during our second session. "I saw myself in her, the beauty, the social grace. I didn't know how to connect with you because you were so different from me. That's not an excuse. It's just I'm trying to understand why I made the choices I did." The taste of honeyed apples still brings it back. That crisp autumn afternoon before everything cracked open. Owen's giggle had danced through the air like wind chimes, his tiny sneakers crunching red leaves beneath them. Vanessa had scooped him up, her perfume sharp and sweet, and then his sudden cry. Piercing, confused. I remember the way the world tilted, how my breath caught between loyalty and dread. The scent of damp earth grounded me. That was the moment I knew. I couldn't keep pretending, couldn't keep sacrificing my son's safety for the illusion of family peace. 3 months of silence followed. Then, a message. My parents had reached out through a therapist. I didn't trust it at first, but they kept showing up. Every session, every hard conversation. Greg admitted it, his voice cracked. I failed you. I failed Owen. Linda struggled more, still clung to the idea that family problems should stay hidden, but even she had moments. I always favored Vanessa, she said quietly. She reminded me of myself. I didn't know how to connect with you. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was something. They asked to send Owen a birthday gift. I checked it first, carefully. Vanessa was gone, California, they said, forced to resign. No apology, no acknowledgement, just distance. And honestly, that was the gift. That evening, the park glowed gold. Owen ran back to the blanket, soaked and smiling. "Can Daniel come for story time tonight?" he asked, flopping beside me. Daniel smiled. "If it's okay with your mom." I nodded. That warmth. It surprised me. Daniel never tried to replace Owen's father. He just showed up. Steady. Kind. The kind of man I didn't think existed anymore. Later, after Owen was asleep and Daniel had gone home, I sat on the balcony. The city lights flickered like quiet stars. 6 months ago, I was drowning in fear. Now, I'd found something real. Not perfect, but honest. I used to believe family meant blood, that keeping the peace was worth any cost. But now I know. Family is love. It's safety. It's choosing what's right, even when it's hard. By protecting Owen, I didn't just shield him. I showed him what courage looks like, what self-respect feels like, what love really means. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Late sunlight spilled across the living room, warm and low. Ila Monroe sat curled on the worn sofa, her arm wrapped around Owen's small frame. His breathing was soft, rhythmic. Her fingers moved gently through his hair. Outside, the world kept spinning. Cars passed, leaves rustled, a neighbor's dog barked once. The phone buzzed on the table, unanswered. Layla didn't flinch. She just exhaled. The ache in her chest didn't vanish, but it softened. After months of silence, therapy sessions, and hard truths, something had shifted. Not fixed, not forgiven, but real. Owen stirred, murmured something about story time. Layla smiled. In this quiet moment, after years of shouting, guilt, and pretending, there was peace. Not the kind you chase, the kind you earn, the kind that whispers, "You did the right thing." I had broken a cycle that could have swallowed Owen whole, the kind passed down in silence, in favoritism, in fear. There's still healing ahead, boundaries to hold, new storms to weather. But that night, in the hush of our apartment, I felt something rare, a peace that comes from choosing truth over tradition, from protecting what matters, even when it costs you everything. Have you ever had to choose between family and safety? Between loyalty and love? What gave you the strength to say, enough? I wonder how many of us are still waiting for permission to protect our children, ourselves. I used to think family meant blood. Now I know. It means love. It means showing up. It means choosing kindness, even when it's not returned. And maybe that's enough.